Until this part of our lesson, we have talked about the way of drawing the walls. And just like I told you in the last part, with the commands in modify like trim, extend and offset and any other, we could draw interior walls of a project, but we didn't talk about the height. Now I want to talk about the height management or the floor management and specify the floors of a project. Before we go to Revit and start drawing there, I draw you a detail from the ceiling so that we can get familiar with the technical objects and then we will start drawing in the software. So let's analyze the details of a ceiling. If I want to draw you a simple detail of a ceiling, first of all I need to draw the main beams. So imagine these are the main beams, right? And then the secondary beams. See, that's the secondary beam. So we call these beam, no matter their main beams or the secondary beams, all of them are called beam, right? But we need to consider one more fact in here that is so important. That's a kind of level on the beams. During the building, imagine that they want to install a beam. Well, they need to know the level, the alignment of top of the beam. But what do we call that level? It's TOB. And it stands for what? Exactly, top of beam. Now let me draw the bottom part too to analyze the floor and the ceiling. Yeah, that's it. So this is the TOB of the downstairs, just like you see. Now, what do we have after the beams? Just consider it so simple, I don't want you to go into details. What should we do after the beams in a project? That's right, the concreting. So, this is the concreting and one here. Now, what do we call this concrete on the beam? That's right, we call it slab. Now, what is the thickness of this slab? Well, it's usually specified based on the structure. Well, for example, let's imagine it's between 5 to 50 centimeters. Well, in our practices and in the phase 2, we usually count it as 10 centimeters when we don't have enough information about the slab. It means the normal amount of it is 10 centimeters. So now this one has a level 2. It's actually the level of our structure which is finished. When we spill the slab, that level is made. Now, what do we call it? That's right, it's slab. So we call it TOS, the top of slab. So this one was top of beam, right? That we call it TOB, and this one is top of slab. Now I write it for you here. And it has other names too, but we will talk about it a bit more in the structure section. So here is TOS2. So what's next? It has just finished, the concrete is dry. Now what do we do? That's right, here we have the architecture finishing. Just like you see, the architecture finishing. That's it. And this one is usually 10 centimeters too. This one is about 10 centimeters. And it includes different concretes, the mortar, some parts like ceramic and stone, and any other thing. Now, what do we call this level? Guess. That's right, we call it FFL. What does it stand for? Finish floor level. Finish floor level. And we have here 2 FFL. Well, I want you to look at it carefully. The levels, we have all of it. The beam level, that was TOB. Then after the concreting, we had slab, that was TOS. And then finish floor level, that was FFL. These are the most important levels we have, but when we want to specify the floors, they are so effective. Now let's go for the vault. I explained the levels, you know what happens on each one. Now we want to go for the drawing the vaults. But one question, for example, I want to draw a wall in Revit. Which of these levels does the wall start from? Imagine while building, for example, you have a wall and now you want to really build it. On which of these should we place the first break? Let's imagine it this way. Should it be on the beam or the concrete or even the ceramic? Well, definitely we start the wall from the concrete, or we should say from TOS. So keep this in your mind that the walls start from TOS. See from here, and then it goes up. So while we are building the walls, we have nothing to do with the FFL. Alright? Well, let me tell you one more thing too. Now, for example, I want to start my job. What is the first thing we draw in Revit? The wall. When I want to start drawing walls, which of these levels do I need first? That's right, the TOS. So remember, that's right, you're an architect and you're drawing a file for architecture, but the first level you need is TOS. You need TOS to draw your walls. Alright, so the wall starts from TOS and goes up, and it must come until under the slab. But in this session, you can get your walls until the top of the slab. Actually, your walls start from TOS to the upstairs TOS. Now, what happens here? Well, we have an interference here. See, the wall and the slab. This is the subject of our lesson in the next episode, and I will talk about it a lot in the next session. Right now, forget about it and draw your walls until the slab of next floor, and I will talk about this interference next session. Well, you might think that if we start our job with the TOS, then how can we use this FFL here? Or how can it be useful for us? What objects do we have that work only with FFL level? Can you say it? I mean the objects that are on this level. Well, the wall did not start from this level, it started from TOS. Now, what objects work with FFL? What? Exactly, like for example furniture. All our furnitures work with FFL. What else? Well, how about partition? Definitely partition is not on the concrete. After the floor was finished, you will place the partitions or set it or anything. We also have other examples, for example, doors and windows. Where should we count the Windows OKB from? From FFL, that's right. Now that you are familiar with the levels and the ceiling system, we need to go and draw these lines in Revit. But just like I said in the first part, we just need TOS. See? So here we have some line as levels. And we also know that at the beginning of our work, they are TOS. We have nothing to do with FFL for now. What do we call these levels, these lines? That's right. We call these lines level lines. And its shortcut is double L, level line. But these level lines have two badges. One of them is as they name, for example, L1, right? This is a name. And I also have a level which is 0, as you see. So what happened? They have a name. You see, this is the name. This is the name. What is this one? This is the elevation, and this elevation includes the level, the height, and this one is the name. Alright, so each of these level lines have two badges, name and the elevation. For example, next one, L2. What do we mean by L? Level. And it's so simple, I will tell you the standard naming later. So, L2 and elevation 4, the level and the height. L3, for example, with the 7 elevation. Alright, so let's have a review together. The level lines at the beginning of our work are TOS. So remember that we should draw the FFL later and on its own time. So these are TOS, the first point. And the second point was that each of them have two badges, name and elevation. But one question, in what architecture maps can we see these level lines? Well, they are seen in two maps, the cuts and views. These level lines can be seen in cuts and views. Now, we have a statement here. To decrease or increase the number of the floors in cut or view, we need to draw or delete the level lines. Let me say it one more time. In order to increase or decrease the number of the floors, we have to delete or draw the level line. So if you want to add floor, you will go to cut or view and then you will draw more of these level lines. Or if you wanted to delete a floor, you will choose the level line and you will delete it. Just remember that all the connected objects will be deleted with it. Now, let's go for the level's standard naming. I'm about to do one thing, and that's each part I enter, I'm about to tell you the standard namings based on the international standards. So, let's go to the level standard naming, but don't think that it's a global naming and that's it, just it's in the world. But no, it's just a good one. So if you want to change it a bit in a project, it's okay. So my suggestion is that to name the level lines, use this system. First of all, write down the height, then parentheses, write the name, and in the end, the kind of the level. Now examples. For example, imagine that the second floor, what is the height? 4 meters. For example, imagine that you have a floor that its height is 4.23. Well, you have a point here, so I think if you write it in centimeters, then this point will be deleted and it will be so much easier. And also, don't forget to write that plus for the floors. For example, here I should write down plus 400 as centimeters. What is the name? Anything you like. The truth is that the name has nothing special or important, so that we make ourselves write just that one. You can name anything. For example, we call this one the second floor. Anything you like. See? Second floor. Now, what is the kind? The kind of the level. We just talked about it. That's right, the TOS. So with this, I understand that this level is TOS, and I will start my walls from that, because in second floor we have an FFL too. So while drawing the walls, Pay attention to this kind of level. What else do we have in the kind of level? That's right, TOB, FFL, and also TOF. What is F? Foundation. But now we have nothing to do with it. When we go to structure, we'll talk about it. Alright, let me tell you one more example. So, well, maybe what floor? Maybe the rooftop. So, what is the height? For example, plus 12,500. We also write roof. The kind of the level, TOS. And we will use FFL too, but later, not now. When we want to design the floor, it's the same thing, but instead of TOS, it's FFL. Now, let's go and see all these on the software and start a multiple floor project to draw and practice. So, now in the first place, we're going to learn how we should draw the levels in the Revit software. First of all, we are going to draw the TOS, which stands for the top of slab, as I told you. Right now, we don't know how to draw the TOB, so we leave it for now. And we don't need the FFL either. We will need it in the next session. Right now, we only need TOS, which is the top of the slab. I want you to draw in Revit consciously, because Revit is not like Max or Rhino that we're just about to make something 3D in it. The Revit 3D is the least valuable part of it. It's just the cut, the magnifies and other things in it that are important to us, not anything else. So you should be conscious in which part of the design the level that you're drawing is. What is the level of it? So these are important. Now let's start drawing the walls. And I should also repeat that for now we need the TOS and we are about to draw them, not anything else. In order to draw the level lines, we need to enter the view or the cut. Because you can see the project level lines only in these two. And also remember that if you're in plan, you can never draw those. So, if you have opened the right template, you need to have 4 default views. That these are the signs: east, north, south, west. And we need one of these views to draw our level lines. So they must exist. But we can cut two, but now we don't know it yet. So we enter one of the views and we see that our template has already got 2 lines for us as the default lines, and we can increase or decrease the number of these lines too. Let me tell you one thing here. If we want to increase or decrease the number of floors, we draw or delete the level lines. Let me tell you again. We will draw or delete the level lines. In order to change the number of the floors, I mean that if you want to add floor right now, you will draw more lines, level lines. But if you want to delete a floor which is extra, well, you will delete 1 line from here. So the center of the management of the floors is here in this level line. Now let's start drawing. In order to draw levels, you can click on level from the architecture headline, and its shortcut, which is written in front of it, is called LL. We select this, we click from left and drag it to right. But why do we do that? Because we want the head of it to be on the right. While you are drawing, keep it in your mind to find the beginning of the line, so not to have an ugly line. Find the beginning, click on it and drag it to the right. Again, the same thing, left to the right. Let me undo. But How can we manage the height of these? See, one way is to do it the same moment that you're drawing this. For example, the height between the first and the second floor is 4 meters. So you can move your mouse, and when you see the number 4, then you stop it. Another way to do it is that you drag this onto here and then click on it and write the number, like the temporary dimension, if you remember. But there's also another way, and that's you copy each of these. For example, you say that there are too many of these and I really can't do it one by one. So I tell you to choose all of them and then click on copy from here and copy them just like that. But when I copy these, something happens. I find out that those lines that I drew myself were added to my plan, but those that were copied are not added to this list. You see? And if you also pay attention, you see that their head is black while the others are blue. Now, what is this? Why did this happen? Well, we have an important statement here. If we had the level lines in the view, but we didn't have their name in the plan, like these 3 black ones, you see, but they're not in the list of the project browser's plan. So what should we do? Well, we go to the plan views, from view headline, and add those. Add to where? Where do we add them? To list of our plans. So now you need to know that we have 3 kinds of plans in Revit. Structural plans that we have nothing to do with it for now. Next one is floor plans, and the other one is ceiling plans. And I should tell you that you will have nothing to do with the structural plans and the ceiling plans until you do the structure. I mean, you should enter that. But I want you to learn adding these 3 to all of these. For example, now I want to add these lines to my floor plans. So what should I do? Plan views and then floor plan. When I open it, I see that they are hidden here. So I select them and then click on OK. And then they're added to our list of plans, floor plans. For example, I want to add them to my ceiling plan list too. Well, we don't need it now, but you will need it, so you should learn it. So, plan views and then reflected ceiling plan, just like that. The structural plan, we do the same thing. Select everyone and then click on OK. So, now you learned how to add the levels that are not in our list, but they are in our view, to the list. Now, let's go back to the view. Well, our levels have 2 things by their side. One of them is their name and another one is the height level. So each of these you click on, you see the name and the height level. For example, this one is 20 meters. I told you that you can't change the height of your levels just by temporary dimension or the moving. But also you can do this through these height levels I told you about. Imagine that you have a messy design. Let me make it a bit messy. For example, we see a project and we see, oh my god, how bad it is. Until here it was 12, now it changes. So we double click on this number that is showing the height level and we enter the right number. Again, double click on this one and do the same thing, just like that. Alright? So this is the height management, and it also has a name by its side too. You can change it if you want. So now I want you to learn the right names of the levels in a perfect way. So let's change the name of it. Our level is TOS, and we've talked about it a lot. I told you that at the beginning they are TOS, not FFL. So I write it TOS slash, and the level is 0, so I write 3 zeros. Again, slash, and the name, which is ground. Enter. So now a palette appears, but what does it say? It says that just like I'm changing the name of the level in the view, do you want me to change it in the list of the plans too? And definitely our answer is yes. Why would we want to have different names? So definitely click on the yes. It actually says, would you like to rename corresponding views? And then yes. You see, it's changed. Now let's go for the next level. Double click first and then write TOS slash 400 slash and then first. This is actually the standard naming. If you wonder that why this one is centimeters and that one is meters, well, it's just a name. It does not affect your work at all. It doesn't matter at all. I just want you to know it. It's a name. It's just better to be centimeters because if here you change it to centimeters, it will change. But here it's just a name. Nothing will change. All right. Now, if you suddenly click on no without you want it, it remains level 2. Well, in these times, you should do it yourself. You copy the text you wrote, you come here, and then you copy it, and then you go to the floor plans and paste it on level 2. You see, just like that. It's so easy. Now, let's change the name of all our levels in a way that I told you. Well, I don't do it now, not to waste time. We can also change the length of our level lines too. But how do we do it? If you select on one of them, you don't need to select all of them. You will see 2 empty circles at the both sides. If you click on these empty circles and drag these level lines in any place you want, you can change the length. Now, a very important point, a very important advice, never bunch your level lines like this and put it somewhere. It has to be like this, in this way, in your whole project. I know that maybe while you're printing you don't want them in your project, but I will explain that to you. I got that, but while working you shouldn't bunch them because when this happens, they might not be seen in some of the views. So remember not to do this. Right? When you select one of these level lines, you will see a lock that you might want there, and also a 3D. Now, what are these? The lock means that, for example, I want to continue this level line, but not the rest of them. You see, when I drag this one, the rest of them will not come with it. Now, how to lock it again? If you drag that back to the same place, it will be locked. And if you need it, you can unlock it. And I don't think it's going to be useful. I just didn't want you to be curious about it. There's also something else here, which is 3D. Why is this one? See, when you unlock this and then drag it, we were in the south view, you see, the same thing happens in the north view too. You see, that means that the graphical changes that you created happens everywhere. But for example, while you're dragging this, you click on 3D and then change it to 2D, but when it changes, it will not affect the rest of the views. The graphic will change only in that view. And I should say that this one can be used sometimes in more advanced objects. We will need it. Alright, now two important and ultimate points. Imagine that you have a project and it doesn't have a good order. Well, I'm sure that you are a professional person. Just guess that it's someone else's project and you see it's so messy. So, what should we do now? Well, at the first place, we choose all the levels, we select all the levels, and then you will right click on one of these level lines. And it doesn't matter which one, just click on one of these lines. We have an option here which is called maximize 3D extents. It means that it maximizes them whatever it can. It actually uses the longest ones. You see, this one is longest from this side and this one is the longest from that side. But now all of them are the longest. Now, the second point, which is really important, and you just listen to it very carefully. We usually draw in this particular zone. Well, we can change this too, can make it a bit bigger. It's okay. But imagine that someone accidentally draw his project in this part, in here, and for example, cut his design from here. Well, I enter the cut, and as you can see, the level lines cannot be seen. You see, the level lines are this side because it's not in the right zone. Now, if the cut is on another side of our shape, they're really annoying in the big projects if you don't know the tricks and the points. Now the cut is another side and you cannot see the level lines at all this time. So what should we do? Well, in the last cut that was on the other side, we would move our level lines. Just that would be easy, but this one, the level lines are not there to be moved. So remember this point until the end of your life, because I've been annoyed in this project so much. And I don't want you to go through these things. I remember myself had once a project, and actually I was the manager of some other people working on that project. And I remember that they did not know where the level lines were, and neither did I. So, what is the solution? Alright, let me repeat the question one more time. If the level lines could not be seen in the views or in some of the cuts, what should we do? And as I told you, this is really important and I want you to keep it in your mind for the rest of your life. So, we go to one of the cuts or the views that we can see the level lines in, like this one, and then we will select all the levels that we have, and one more time we will click on the maximize 3D extent. You got it? Briefly speaking, if the level lines weren't in one of the views or the cuts, you will go in one of them that there is and then you will maximize it. You see, here we didn't have it, now we do. And the one that it was away from the zone, you see it's right now too. And this was an important point too, and I want you to pay attention to it. Alright, I want you to know that in this part we want to finish a whole project. So I need you to improve yourself every episode so that we don't have any trouble. If you want to learn Revit very well, just don't watch it like a movie. I've told you many times, imagine you're in a classroom. And now, for example, I've given you a time so that you can practice. You practice, and if you have any question, you can contact with me. Ask your question and then continue the video. Now you should practice all these I talked about. If you have a book, then it's clear. Practice on the book. But if you don't, you should have written all the points already yourself. So practice all these very well so that we can see each other in the next episode very soon.